Welcome back to Mom's Pearls, where we discuss life's questions with a biblical perspective. Guys, we're here together. Can y'all believe it?
Yes.
Kobe thought he had us. He didn't have us. Look, we're back here together. And the killer part about it, the topic that we're going to be speaking on today, whew, okay? Now, it's a widely controversial, oh my goodness, and to some, very inhumane practice, the death penalty. So, the death penalty, which is still an option in 27 states. Can y'all believe that? 27 in the U.S. We are talking practices like hanging, the fire. Can y'all believe a firing squad? Come on, guys.
Yep.
The gas chambers. Now, this is stuff is like a myth to me. The gas chambers. Let me quit. But electrocution. But the one that we're using now, lethal injection. Can you imagine all these ways to kill God's people? I'm just saying. What does the Bible say? And so much more. I'm asking, what does the Bible have to say about this? And we're going to find out. I want you guys to stay tuned. Don't leave. Hold on. And we'll be right back.
Mom's Pearls. Mom's Pearls. Mom's Pearls.
Hey family, so we are so excited to be here together in person. We're doing something special for you guys this Tuesday. And so in going with that special thing, we have with us a super exciting guest, our pastor, former sheriff, Lloyd. Woo! So he is in the building. Some of you might be familiar, family, if you've seen our episodes before, but he's back with us. We are super excited to have him with us on this important topic of the death penalty. So he's going to be able to give us some insight and really help us discuss with you guys from a biblical perspective, but also from his particularly special vantage point. All right, so let's get into it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so what can you tell us about the death penalty? So studies suggest that while lethal injections are the most common, sometimes they're not always the option, especially with COVID. Everybody's been to the grocery store and you can't find what you need. So it's one of those situations where they don't always supply the drugs that are necessary with the lethal injections. I didn't even know they were still doing hangings. Like, this is craziness. So what is your particular insight into the death penalty?
The death penalty is designed, supposedly originally, was to deter people from committing crimes.
Okay.
If you look in the Bible, and I think y'all do have some scriptures.
Yes.
If you look in the Bible, you'll see where the death penalty was even orchestrated in the Bible.
Yes.
But what happened is that in today's time, as time went by, it was to deter that if I go and, let's say for example, steal your cow, then hey, you stole my cow, which means I lost out or something like this here. I killed a farmer at the same time. Then the death penalty would be because a life for a life.
Right.
Does the death penalty work? No, not in my opinion, because you still have criminals today that are still killing. I do not believe it is a deterrent. Outside the death penalty, then you have life in prison. Life in prison is basically, especially if you hear a judge say life in prison with no parole, what he's saying is that person is staying there throughout that whole time till they die. They will not be released. They won't get parole. Some people do come up life in prison with parole.
Right.
But as far as some law enforcement officers, some think it works, some think it does not work.
Right.
And so, you know, you got different kinds. You got the firing squad. You mentioned the gas chamber, electrocution. We got a lady right now in Texas.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all heard about her. I think her name is
Melissa Lucio.
There you go.
Yes.
She is on the death penalty. Been on there for 14 years.
14 years.
And one thing about the death penalty, once you get it, it doesn't mean that the fact is you're automatically going to, no, you have appeals after appeals after appeals. So that's part of the reason why it takes so long for your time, if you're going to get executed,
Right.
for that time to happen.
Right.
Because you got all these appeals process.
Right.
But, so with that there, she's been on there, and so with her being on there for all these years, is that she's been appeal. Now the appeals have ran out, and so now it's just a matter of, the last one, would the governor allow it to go through, or would the governor not allow it to go through? It's his call.
I have a question. How did it begin with Miss Melissa?
It began because what happened with her is the fact is that she's supposed to be charged with killing her 2-year-old daughter.
Oh, okay.
She said that her daughter fell down some steps and stuff.
Okay.
But the law enforcement said that the daughter suffered blunt traumas to the head. And so they believe that the fact is she beat her daughter. And so she said she was interviewed over 100 times. And each time she kept saying, she didn't do it, she didn't do it, she didn't do it. And meanwhile, while she was being interviewed, of course, the investigators, they was degrading her, they was calling her everything and stuff like this. So she finally broke down and said she did do it. And that's all they wanted her to do was break down.
That's bad.
And there you go.
And I think that's one of the tricky parts when we're talking about the death penalty, because a lot of times, especially nowadays, we're not there. So we can't really call the crime and say exactly what happened. So now to sentence this woman to the death penalty, and we don't know for sure she did it, that is problematic.
And then another question. The baby could have fell down the stairs and had blunt trauma falling down the stairs. She's 2 years old. But, okay.
It could have been
I'm
an
just saying,
accident.
It could have been an accident. It could have been you fall down so many stairs, you're going to have some knots on your head. I'm just saying.
Well, I know what you're saying is true, but the fact, what they look at is when it comes to children, nowadays, law enforcement takes a serious look at how did that child die. That's why they perform autopsies and everything else. And so in the process of that, then they come back with, this is how that child died. Then after that, who was the people around when that child died? Who was the people that was involved?
So I think one of the questions that I had originally when I started thinking about the death penalty too, and the different methods that they use, was can we use one method? Would one method across the board for everybody that's sentenced to the death penalty be effective? But I think the answer to that would be no, simply because there are varying degrees of crimes to which people are sentenced to the death penalty. So we know that every murderer isn't sentenced to the death penalty,
True,
right?
true.
It has to be an extremely heinous crime, a horrible act that has happened in order for them to be sentenced to the death penalty. So how do we see that working?
Well, remember what you said in your opening dialogue. You said there was 27 states.
Right.
That, and most of the states are along the southeast and the Midwest that still authorize the death penalty. Well, why not all 50 states? Well, because the other states felt like it does no good. But the 27 southern states and stuff that still authorize it, they still do it or believe that the fact is it's supposed to be a deterrent. But it's not. It's not, to me, a deterrent. What it is it's just the fact is you taking somebody's life just to say you have done something. And that's to me the motivation behind it. You can't bring somebody back once they get dead anyway.
True. But listen, does the crime determine the method of death?
No, not the crime. The crime doesn't. The crime does. Well, let me think about it.
I think
Yes,
it's a choice.
it does determine the part. And now, when you say method, are you talking about gas chamber?
Gas chamber, yeah.
No. The crime does not determine the death penalty.
The way you go down.
The way you gonna die.
Wow.
You get to
Right.
choose it, because I think I was reading that if they don't have it, like with the lethal injections, if they don't have everything available that they need to give it to you, then you have to choose a different method, which is extremely crazy, because I mean they're doing the lethal injections because most people, like especially those of us who are against the death penalty,
Right.
we're like, it's not a humane
It's
way of going
very
out.
inhumane.
The firing squad,
yes.
the gas chamber, hanging, like come on y'all, hanging for real, family, electrocution. So these are painful methods, and while people who are for the death penalty might say, well, maybe the crime they committed to that person was painful and it was worth it and they should go through the torture and things like that, you know, it's still a very painful method, and we're still talking about human beings at the end of the day, and a lot of times these are crimes that we don't have that proof of.
And so they're giving me a check. Look, if I can't get the illegal injection, they said I could pick if I want to be electrocuted, if I want to go to the gas chamber, firing squad.
Yes.
Come on, guys. I don't want to be shot. Look, for one, I don't want to die, but they giving you a choice. That is just crazy.
Well, in actuality, if you really think about legal injection,
Yes, sir.
execution can be the two most horrifying ways to go.
Yes.
The hanging is basically breaking your neck. That's what happens.
That sounds
when you
like
hang
Wild Wild
somebody.
West. No,
Yes.
sound like in the West.
The firing squad, actually, the men that actually pull the trigger, one of them do not have the bullet in it.
Exactly.
So he just go through, but nobody knows which one it is. And so, you know, the gas chamber, that is a horrifying way to go because you're breathing
It takes
in
away-
the air and it takes away your breath. So electrocution, electrocution, the illegal injection, the gas chambers are, I would consider, the most horrifying hindrance ways to go. Whereas the firing squad, done, get it over with, and go like that.
I don't want to
So
be
you-
shot. He said fire squad gonna get it over with. Not. Now let me quit.
So you have said that we know that 27 states have the death penalty, while the
Right.
rest of the states do not have the death
Right.
penalty. And in your professional opinion, just based on your experience, you said that the death penalty isn't really a deterrent. So for those other states that aren't using the death penalty, what would be like an effective deterrent? I guess this will be my primary question, is life in prison enough to where we could possibly all 50 states, like you were saying, across the board, go without the death penalty?
No, because sin is in the heart of man.
Okay.
This is a biblical show. And so we're going to go with what the Bible said. Sin is in the heart of man. And there is no deterrent to keep man from doing what he's going to do. We saw that back in Cain and Abel days.
Yes.
And so even to the day, we still got it going on. That the fact is there is nothing to deter. When you don't have the death penalty, what you do is have somebody in jail for the rest of their life. That's all they are. They die in jail. And now some people are killed in jail. Some people are killed in jail because the fact is that why? Because of what the crime they did on the outside. Some of the there are certain codes in the prison system that the fact is you don't want to go to jail after charged with rape.
True.
You don't want to go to jail charged with killing senior citizens. You don't want to go to jail charged with child abuse, because those are certain codes in prisons that inmates, if they find out that you have done these things, they will kill you because they believe that the fact is you will do that to their children.
That's right.
And
That's
so,
right.
you know, that it is. But the thing is, this is because sin is in the heart of man, there is nothing to deter man from stop doing what he's doing.
And you know what? That's so true, because the Bible back in Genesis and Exodus, there was a law. And I want to read Genesis 9 and 6.
Okay.
It says, "Whoso sheddeth a man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man." So what I'm saying is, what they said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. My thing was, you kill my dog, I'm gonna kill your cat. That doesn't register here. I'm just saying, God's work back in the law, that's what happened then. But Jesus came on the scene. Jesus came on the scene. He did away with that. So with him doing away with that, how can we still be doing things back then? From back then. Does that make any sense to anyone? Does anybody understand that when Jesus stepped on the scene, he did away with the killing of each other? Yeah, I mean, we ain't got to do that. So because see, Jesus believed in us loving one another, loving our enemies, loving. It's hard to love your enemy and he had stole something, he had killed somebody. It's like the heart of man is the same. The heart of man is the same. I mean, it just, and y'all work with me on this, cause I'm still, y'all just help the sister out. Just help me out. And Pastor, I love the fact that you're here. You're able to help us try to get some knowledge out of this, because it doesn't make any sense.
But it's not supposed to make sense because we live in a sinful world. And until man accept Christ in his life,
Oh, Jesus.
he's going to keep doing what he's doing. I mean, think about it. You sit up here, if you look around, you have people killing folks. Nowadays, what's some of the biggest crimes? Road rage.
Road rage.
You
Hello.
sit up here, you driving that
That's a
just a few months ago. Lady at the red light here in Atlanta. She's at the red light. Guy pulls up behind her. The light turned green. She don't move fast enough.
Hello.
What do? He goes ahead and he starts shooting into the car.
Make no sense.
He starts shooting.
Don't make no
Road
sense.
rage. All of this is because it goes back to the sin that's in a man's heart. And that will not change until man accepts Christ.
Do you think the death penalty serve as an accurate deterrent for future crimes that we see, that we consider today for the death penalty?
Nope.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
it
no, I
does
got it
not.
out right,
I mean, the bottom line, it does not, because of the fact that, like I said, the heart of man. The heart of man. Until man accept Christ in his life, he is going to, if you sit up there, you step on my toes, you can say you're sorry.
Yes.
But it's how I respond to your sorry.
That makes sense.
I may go ahead on and say it because of the way that the sin that's in my heart. I may go ahead on and decide, sorry. What you mean you sorry? You just stepped on my shoe.
Yep.
Escalate from there.
Yes.
And so Matthew 5:38 says, "Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth." 39 reads, "But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also." So I think a lot of times when we're talking about, like you had mentioned earlier, Sister Shayla, Jesus dying on the cross for us and paying for all our sins, at the end of the day, we're saying that our degrees as human beings, our heart being the same, when we do those things that are evil and are wicked, we're still treated differently in regards to how the outcome of those sins
Real
are.
talk,
So
real
at the
talk.
end of the day, having a death penalty isn't necessarily necessary when there are so many varying degrees to the crime. So if one murder doesn't get me the death penalty, but maybe 6 murders does, it's still murder. So to say, well, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, that's your basis, it's not accurate, because we're not treating them the same all across the board. So at the end of the day, I think if we have 27 states that have the death penalty, maybe that's something that we can consider is not having it, and just having life imprisonment, just having other situations, because I also read that out of 8 death penalties that happen, 1 is exonerated. So at the end of the day, that's somebody coming back and saying, oh yeah, this person is innocent. Oh, here is the proof and everything that goes with it. Again, that presents a problem, because what if there was more? What if there were 2? What if there were 3? What if there were 4? Over half of your people were truly innocent and didn't commit this heinous crime. So I think just at the end of the day, definitely family bears some consideration as to whether the death penalty is outdated, especially since the Bible is showing that it's outdated.
Okay. Go ahead, Pastor.
Would you feel that way if your child was killed?
No, I would want to do damage to the person
Well, thank
myself.
you.
However,
Wait, so what you just said.
however, it is not my place right?
Yes.
To take that individual's life like I would want to.
Yes.
Okay? Because I would then be conflicted with who I am and what I believe based on how I am about my feelings and my child.
But
So unfortunately,
it's
if I can't kill it myself, I don't want anybody else doing it.
Exactly. You want to lay hands on it.
Right.
It's easy to say it, but the thing is this here. When that shoe is on you, see, we can talk this thing here, but when that shoe is on your foot, that somebody that came into the house and they sit up there and went on ahead and did something to your child, would you be able to go ahead on and allow it? And understand that the justice system is not fair anyway.
Hello?
Right. It's very
The
rigged.
justice system
Man.
is not fair anyway. You have
Disparities
I'm trying
for
to keep on.
color,
Yes.
for age,
So you sit up
for
here,
gender.
you sit up here because of you one group, you done something, and this other person can do the same thing that you done.
another group.
And they can go right on ahead in another group, and this person here don't get the death penalty. They may just get life in prison. Maybe with parole, maybe without parole. But then this other person comes along, and what they do is they go head on, and they get with the death penalty. So, I mean, the fact is, we can talk about the death penalty, pray we do, to another subject, go on to part 2. But the thing is, this is that, it's not the same, and it's not a deterrent in my view.
All right, family. Well, put a pin in it. We'll be right back. It's time for our Pro of the Week.
Yes.
All right, so we are back. This conversation is definitely heating up. We hope you guys are enjoying the information as well as the opportunity to just speak freely with us, family. Don't forget to leave your comments. So we were talking about the justice system, and we do understand that there are disparities across the board in our justice system, which create an issue. But here's what I will say in regards to the death penalty. Again, if it was my child, I would definitely want to lay hands on that individual. I wouldn't want to leave it up to the system. But however, I would leave it up to the system. And I don't think anybody who's been in those shoes, I don't know anybody personally, thank the Lord, but I don't think anybody who's been in those shoes has slept better at night because the person who committed the crime to their family member or their loved one or whoever the case may be was just like, that person was killed. They were like, whoo, I'm so glad that person's killed. Now everything's right again. When you lose that loved one, it doesn't matter what happened to the person who did it. It doesn't bring that person back. So I think when we start saying that whole eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, and this is why we're keeping the death penalty, it's not accurate.
Listen, let me say, my saying was, you kill my dog, I'm gonna kill your cat. When they killed my nephew, when I tell you his mom and his dad, but the aunts, the uncles, and the nieces and the nephew, baby, we wanted blood for blood. And we would see him on the street, still didn't do nothing. But then turns around 2 or 3 years later, he get killed and everybody's like, yay, yay. And then I couldn't even yay. I couldn't yay because the God in me was like, I can't get no pleasure out of knowing that he got killed.
That's real
because
talk.
and we want to blame him, but we can't. We got to forgive. We got to forgive. But y'all, I love this topic. I love this. But I have a question. How effective is the death penalty?
It's not effective at all. I've said that it's not effective at all. It just, it really, in my opinion, the death penalty in the state of Georgia has been around for who knows how long. I mean, I have to check on that.
Yeah.
But you still got people killing folks.
Every day.
So,
Every day.
they get charged with murder, and it's up to the DA to decide if they want to push the death penalty. The DA decides whether they want to push the death penalty. And then if they decide they want to push it, then they go ahead on and let the judge know that this is what they recommend. But it's not a deterrent, because if that was the case, then every time somebody murders somebody, especially in cold blood or something like this here, over stupid stuff, then you would have a lot of DAs sitting up there recommending the death penalty. because then they know that it will stop. But it's not a deterrent.
Well, I guess it's not a deterrent, but it could perhaps bring closure to the families of those individuals
Yes.
that crime was committed against. So that could be a very strong argument for keeping the death penalty, is that at the end of the day, there does feel like there's some resolution and there is some closure for those families.
And that is true. And so that's why you can say that the fact is that for you, you would not be able to sleep good at night if the person did receive the death penalty. But for others, hey, it's over. That sucker got what he's supposed to get. I'm
Hello.
good. I can sleep good
Hello.
now. And that's just being real. Everybody's not the same.
How accurate is the death penalty on a wrongful conviction?
And
see,
that has been done. That some people who have been convicted and died, they come back and find out later that that person was innocent. But it goes back to how hard or how strong it is that the attorneys, the public defenders, or the lawyers still seek afterward. Because remember, I told you that a person who's on death row, they be on death row not just for 2 or 3 years, a lot of them on there for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yes.
It's because appeal after appeal after appeal. And that is that somebody is trying to, keep them from being killed. But that's what it's about.
What about the fear that after will the person get out and kill again? What about them?
If they
5
get
to 15,
released,
you know,
they're living
yeah.
life on prison.
Yes.
And they get
And
released.
And they get released.
That's always a possibility, and it don't even have to be a person on death row.
Right.
You done had some people that said there was, I think just in Atlanta, just here a few weeks ago, where a guy got out. He was supposed to stay in prison. He got locked out. He got let go, and he went out and killed some folks. So just because you're on death row and a person get released doesn't necessarily change the mindset.
See? So you said
You're talking about the mindset. And so with that, you got to go ahead on and look at it that because of the mindset, until a man on the pastor side, until a man's heart get changed, he's going to keep doing the things of the world. And so if he goes into jail, he goes into prison because he done killed somebody, until his heart get changed, if he's allowed to come out, who's to say he may not do it again?
so. Truthfully, life in prison ain't enough to say it's a deterrent.
Not to know. And then the fact is, some inmates in prison in the other states where they don't have the death penalty, and they in there for life, and they still killing folks.
Hello, in that.
And they still killing folks.
But
I mean, hey, they ain't got what they got to lose.
Do you think that other alternatives to the death penalty that could be implemented that
There's
are
always
effective?
no, because you're still dealing with mankind.
Jeez.
It still goes back to mankind, and that's what you got to understand. The heart of a man.
I was just going to say the heart.
It's
The heart
deceitfully wicked.
of a man.
Yes. Lord have mercy. I have no idea.
All right, well, family, we appreciate you all joining us today.
Thank you,
you
guys.
so much for being with us, Pastor Lloyd. We appreciate all of your insight and your wisdom. Family,
Yes.
it's that time for our call to action. You guys, listen, we want you guys to go out and vote. We told you this several times
Come on,
before. A lot of
come
you
on,
guys
y'all.
have
For
elections
real.
coming up and ongoing. Vote your beliefs. But remember, most importantly, pray for the criminals, pray for the victims, pray for their families. It's so important that we continue to pray because we don't know what's going on in this world. And like he has spoken to so much during this segment, we don't know the heart of mankind, okay? So we will see you guys next Tuesday. Enjoy your week.
Bye.
Mom's Pearl.